I recently lost out on some things that I'd been really excited about. I went through the process in both cases of hyping myself up for what I imagined or dreamed of, only for that vision to be lost when they fell through. Perhaps it was too optimistic at first to imagine a life that hadn't happened so clearly, or to commit so much to it in my mind. But I can't help but to imagine vividly enough to believe. I guess if I can't help but believing vividly, I need to learn how to grieve when I sometimes lose those things that I vividly imagined. Imagining greatly requires grieving. This speech is my attempt to give some tips to people going through that process of grieving loss of what you imagine. And also to tell you not to stop imagining just because grieving what you lose hurts sometimes. Think back, have you had a time recently when you imagined something so much such that you had to grieve its loss when things turned out differently than planned? This can sometimes happen perhaps when you have a child that faces difficulties and you need to grieve the loss of the ease that you expected that you would have your life with them to be. Or when a family member dies. I remember when my father died when I was in law school, I grieved not having enough of him and also never seeing him achieve the dreams that I promised him I would achieve. Or lost love. If you've ever felt like you grieved for a life that you wish you had with a person that fits you. Now, because you know me, you know by now that when I'm confused and in need of guidance, there's no better way for me to process it than to read all the research. So here's what the experts say on what we need to do to move on in the face of loss. First, we find comfort in memories or lessons learned. For example, if a loved one has died, instead of focusing on the pain of not having them anymore, know that you haven't lost everything because you can still bring up the memories that you had. You haven't lost your memories. There's a Jewish expression when someone's passed that says, "May their memory be a blessing." This captures this idea elegantly and simply. In other contexts, you can apply this as well. Say if your failure caused a loss for you. You can acknowledge the loss of what you imagined and then with kindness to yourself, try to shift your focus away from rumination and onto thoughts of being thankful for what you had for at least a little while, or thankful for the opportunities you might have in the future to make up for it. Second, the research says talk to friends and loved ones. This is one of the biggest predictors of successfully accepting and thriving after grief, a strong social support system. If you don't have one, when you experience grief is a good time to try to connect with other people who will accept you or will help you draw out the lessons that you can take from your grief. You can build that network after experiencing grief. Third, rewrite your narrative. Maybe the headline of your story changes from "I lost everything" to "I can grow stronger. I can have new hope. I can find goodness in now." Talking to others can be helpful in this sense because it can help you get out of a negative narrative that you wrote in your head and help you see the positives and help you determine what happened so that you can write a new story for next time. Now, what should you do with this? Even with all this advice on how to grieve loss, when it comes to dreams, I still imagine these imagined lives that I always fear I've lost. I still hope that even though I don't have them right now, I'll have them one day, maybe a little further away, but I imagine them no less vividly. I smell the books in the room where I would be standing, or I feel the air move past me as I turn around to face the people that I want to have around me. And I don't want to let go of dreaming that way. If I'm not willing to let go of having these imagined future lives, I guess I'll have to just learn how to grieve for not having them all right now. I don't necessarily have to grieve not having them ever. Wild success requires a little bit of delusion after all. It requires that we believe in something a little unlikely. For me, I'll continue to dream. I might have to grieve more for it, but I'd rather have the dreams along with the grief than to only have dreams that are likely enough to avoid the grieving process. They might lead to more heartache, but the benefit of keeping dreams alive is worth it. So if you need to get over something, maybe that isn't coming back, like the death of a loved one, by all means, you should grieve. But if you're a dreamer like me, and you can't let go of what you think is the best that could be, don't give up. Grieve at the loss of right now, but keep your dreams alive. Just because it hurts sometimes doesn't mean you should stop imagining greatly. One of my favorite quotes is by Cicero, and he said, "No man can be brave who thinks pain the greatest evil, nor temperate who considers pleasure the highest good." We need to dream, grieve, and dream again. Thank you.